Quick warning. This is the book that made me actually believe I could read 52 books in a year, because I picked it up thinking it was just sci-fi popcorn, and 400 pages later, I was a different kind of tired than usual. The good kind. The I need to talk to someone about this kind. Hic sunt leones. Here be lions. That's where we're headed. Let's get into it. This is Red Rising by Pierce Brown, book one of a saga that, fun fact, just lost its long-promised TV adaptation. After more than a decade in development, Pierce Brown confirmed in early 2026 that the show is dead, which honestly works out for us, because it means the books are still the only way in, and you've got time to catch up before whatever he does next. Here's the setup. Centuries from now, humanity's colonized the solar system, and society runs on a color-coded caste system. Golds rule. Reds, at the very bottom, mine the resources that supposedly terraform Mars for future generations. Our guy Darrow is a red, a hell diver, doing the most dangerous job in the deepest tunnels on Mars. Then his wife Io does something small and reckless, sings a song she's not supposed to sing, and it costs her everything. And what should have been the end of Darrow's story is actually where the real one starts, because a resistance movement recruits him, rebuilds him, literally, surgically, into a gold, and sends him to infiltrate the system that just took everything from him. I picked this one for week one because it's the best argument I know for why genre fiction can hit as hard as anything literary. This is the read-along, same book, same week, your take in the comments when you're done. Here's what actually got me, beyond the premise. The Institute arc, the back half of this book, is where Brown does something I didn't expect. It plays like a brutal academy trial. Gold teenagers split into houses, thrown into a war games scenario with real stakes, fighting for dominance through alliances and betrayal. On the surface, it's Hunger Games DNA, but the question underneath it is sharper. What does it cost a person to win at a game designed by tyrants, using the tyrant's own tools? That's the tension I want to sit in for a second, because it's the question the whole series is built on, not just this book. Darrow's entire plan depends on becoming, convincingly, one of the people he hates, not pretending to be gold, being good at being gold, outmaneuvering them, outfighting them, outleading them, and every time he wins a round at their own game, you feel the cost of it. He's good at this. That should worry you a little. It worried me. The character work holds this up. Severo, scrawny, unimpressive on paper, absolutely the most dangerous person in any room he's in, becomes the emotional anchor of the book almost by accident, and by the time the Howlers form up around him, you understand exactly why Darrow needed someone who isn't playing the gold game at all, who's just loyal. And Mustang, Virginia O. Augustus, is doing something more interesting than love interest. She's the first person in Gold Society who looks at the system itself and questions it out loud, which makes her the one character whose alliance with Darrow feels like it might survive everything else falling apart. What I keep coming back to, though, is how the book handles grief as fuel without letting it curdle into something simple. Darrow doesn't get to just be sad about Io. Her death becomes the engine for a years-long infiltration plan, and Brown doesn't pretend that's a clean trade. There's a real cost to turning grief into a mission. You can watch it start to calcify Darrow even in book one, and that's the kind of character honesty that makes me trust an author for the next 5 books, not just this one. And structurally, this thing moves. Brown doesn't over-explain the world. You get dropped into gold society at the same disoriented pace Darrow does, which means you're learning the rules of this world exactly when he needs to learn them to survive. That's a harder trick to pull off than it looks, and it's a big part of why this doesn't read like homework, even with as much world building as it's carrying. I also want to talk about the color system itself for a second, because it's doing more work than just cool sci-fi aesthetic. Splitting humanity into golds, reds, obsidians, pinks, and the rest isn't subtle. It's not supposed to be. Brown's pretty clearly building an exaggerated version of how real caste and class systems sell themselves. Tell the people on the bottom they're sacrificing for something noble. Tell the people on top they've earned their place, and make the whole arrangement feel like physics instead of a choice somebody made. Darrow spends this entire book learning that it was always a choice. That's not a subtle metaphor, but it's an effective one. And it's the kind of thing that makes this read like more than just a fun adventure book once you sit with it for a minute. Break the chains. 3 words, but they're the whole series' mission statement in miniature. Not just one man's escape, the entire system, torn down for everyone still living under it. That's the line that turns a survival story into a movement. Everything after it is Darrow finding out what leading a movement actually costs. Rating: I'm giving Red Rising a king. Top tier. No notes. Who's this for? If you liked the moral complexity of the Hunger Games but wanted it written for adults, with sharper politics and zero training wheels, this is your book. If you bounce off slow burn world building, stick with it through the first 50 pages anyway. It pays off. Comp titles: The Hunger Games for the trial structure, Ender's Game for the kids trained into weapons, gut punch, Dune for the political scheming underneath the action. If you want to grab a copy and read along, links in the description and pinned in the comments. Amazon Associate: I earn from qualifying purchases, so it costs you nothing extra, and it's a real assist to this channel. Book 1 of 52 done. If you're reading along, tell me where you'd rank your house in the comments. Mars, Minerva, I want to see the arguments. Next week, Book 2, Golden Sun. And I will warn you now, it gets worse before it gets better. Subscribe if you want to do this with me, and I'll see you in the next book. And I'll be honest about why this book landed at exactly the right time for me. I picked week 1 of this challenge to be a book about someone deciding, deliberately and at real cost, to become something harder and more capable than they were. Because that's basically the assignment I gave myself with these 52 books. Darrow's stakes are obviously bigger than mine, but what are you willing to become to get where you're trying to go is a question that scales down just fine to a guy with a full-time job trying to read a book a week. If there's one moment I want you to sit with, it's not early in the book. It's later, when the other students start calling Darrow something he never asked for, the Reaper. The moment he stops fighting that name and starts using it.